Hey everybody, sit down around the hearth, grab a frosty mug of ale. Welcome to the Lion's Pride Tavern, where we discuss all things Azeroth. Hey everybody, we have some very exciting news for our podcast. But first, I think we should find out how we did on this week's raid. So let's start off with introductions. I'm your host, Fafford. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. Next up, we have Joe Bowie.
Hi, I'm Joe Bowie. I play a Worgen Fire Mage.
And next is Lorelei.
Hi, it's Lorelei, your Night Elf Fury Warrior.
And from up north, Epistle.
And it's actually thawing up here, which is nice. Yep, I'm Epistle, play a Draenei Protection Paladin.
And Tappuccino.
Hey, it's Tappuccino. I play a Night Elf Restoration Druid who wishes she could heal herself of this cold.
Nice.
Well, you got to cast the right spell there, Tap.
I just gotta find it in my spellbook, I guess.
Is that a decurse? You gotta
Cure disease.
cure disease, yeah.
Yes.
Nice. All right, so just first off, a little podcast info. If you guys are tuning in for the first time, you can catch us on other channels, which is iTunes, Google Play, YouTube. Yes, we have a YouTube channel that you can watch our lovely digital artist, Donna Bell, draw one of our weekly tunes as you listen to our podcast. We're also hosted on Podomatic.com. So if you have any questions or comments, please send them to lionsprideTavern@yahoo.com. All right, this week we're right around the same amount of listeners, but we did get someone new. We got someone from Russia with love.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Welcome.
No kidding, right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, what he said.
Yeah.
So this week's raid, I'm kind of excited to talk about it because we made it a lot further than we normally do. Joe Bowie, why don't you give us a brief rundown on what we did?
Well, on our first night of raiding, we blasted through the first 5 bosses. We made it all the way. We did Croesus after we did the Spellblade, just like in the previous week. And then on the second night of raiding, we took on Star Augur and took down Star Augur, and then moved on to take our first tries at the Botanist. High Botanist something? What is that full name? Tellarn?
Tellarn?
Yeah, High Botanist Tellarn. And we did a pretty decent job for our first few polls on High Botanist Tellarn. Didn't take him down yet, but we're definitely we're definitely on the right track to that.
So, do you remember exactly what we got him down to? I think it was like 16?
That's what I remember.
Yeah, I think 16%.
16%, yeah.
Was our best attempt.
And we only did, what, 2 or 3 polls?
I think 3, is what we had tried there.
Yeah, because one of them was a oops poll.
Yeah, we had
Yep.
we had an actual pull right after our first introduction to the fight, and then we had a oops, that's the wrong button pull, and then we had an actual pull on the last attempt.
Yeah, it seems like we had a rainbow generator that could actually attack the boss when when it went off, and it wasn't the hunter's fault this time. We can blame me; I'll take the blame, but I didn't actually do it.
No, it was another hunter actually that did it.
It's gotta be a hunter, though,
Oh.
one way or
Yeah,
another.
it's always
Just
the
keeping
hunter.
it fresh.
Yeah,
So out of that's what 5, 6, 7 bosses, guys.
right.
That's awesome. So out of 7 bosses, Joe Bowie, which one's your favorite?
I kind of like I think my favorite boss is gonna be the what's his name? The Tichondrius, not Tichondrius, Trilliax, because you know It was like the chromatic anomaly because I kind of like the play off of the speed, but Trilliax is just kind of funny the way that voice is calling down and throwing the food down, and it's just such an oddball boss that I think that one's kind of my favorite now.
Lorelai, what about you?
I like Star Augur the best so far. Um, I like the way it looks, and I like the mechanics of it. I don't think it's a difficult fight. It's just one where you have to really pay attention to the mechanics. But I just enjoy the whole outlook where the walls come up and then they come down and you're out in space. And he's kind of interesting looking himself.
He reminds me of if you've ever watched the original Aliens, or Alien, I guess,
Yep.
they had, the extended version had the scene where they're on the planet and the guy's there and he gets, the thing, you see the old alien sitting there and his chest burst, that happened. He's all, been like dead for hundreds of years. But he kind of looked like that guy sitting there, except without
Yeah.
the chest burst. So, Epistle, which is your favorite?
Well, I enjoy both of those, but I think the Croesus fight keeps me more on edge because at any moment, if you're on the bridge or if you don't run out the debuff, or you're not standing in the right position, you could be one-shotted. So it's kind of a little more on edge, edge of your seat, paying attention. Kind of, I enjoy that.
Well, and I always have this vision in my head when I see both of his fists go up and come down on both tanks of, Atlas holding up the world. You just sit there like, I'm going to hit this fist. I'm going to grab this fist as he pounds down on top of you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fun fight that way too. Tanks have to be in the right position, but you have to move, and it's a more mobile fight than many tanking fights.
Okay, Tappuccino, how about you? What's your favorite?
Oh boy, there's so many good ones. They're all a lot of fun. And I have to go with Epistle though with Croesus. It really gets the adrenaline going as that bridge gets shorter and shorter and you're running further and further back. I think it just really you know, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to heal. It's a lot of fun to run around and try to get into the swirls and he's a pretty cool looking boss. So I have a good time with that one too. But they're all really a lot of fun.
All right, yeah. All right, we have a fan asked question, a couple of them actually this week. So, first one is, what is your favorite starting zone for starting a new tune, and why is it your favorite? Jobui?
I've got to go with uh, I've got to go with the Worgens in Gilneas. I think that's where you start off at. It's a pretty interesting story. It's a little bit linear, but I kind of like how it introduces the whole Worgen aspect to the game and why they're there and how they become like prominent in the story. And I like that one. I think the best of all of them.
All right. What about Lorelai?
My favorite is the Night Elf starting zone. I like the big tree that you start in, and when you're running around and you really can't do too much, it kind of feels like you are a little elf just running around trying to do things. And it's just very pretty. I like when WoW does something and to make it look pretty, they do a great job.
That they do. They have some fantastic artists. Tappuccino.
I actually like the Night Elf starting zone too. Am partial to Night Elves. I like Lorelei said, it is very pretty, and I also like to quest around that area in Kalimdor because I don't do a lot of questing in Kalimdor. A lot of my other tunes end up over in Eastern Kingdoms, so it's a nice break from doing a lot of questing over there. So I kind of like that zone and where it starts and where it brings you to. And it is very gorgeous. I love the tree. I love that whole concept of the night elves in general.
Yeah, interesting. See, and I'm very, very partial to the Alliance. I have taken every one of my tunes, whether it be a Night Elf or a Draenei, whatever, and I bring them to Stormwind, and I run through the whole West Wind or Westfall Westfall area. I really like that whole uh, starting quest line, and it's probably just because it's more medieval looking. But my ultimate favorite is on the Horde side, I must say. And I know I'm biting my tongue even saying this, but I like the Goblin starting area. I was trying to think, is it Goblin or
That's
is
a
it a gnome?
crazy area. No, that's
Yeah.
It,
Goblin.
you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a frat house. You got guys running around in cars and everybody's drinking and dancing and little goblins are, you know, in bathing suits. It's just and the whole quest line's kind of like that. You start off, you're supposed to find the car and drive on the roads and it's yeah. So I thought that was a very unique starting zone. Um, but that may be my favorite, but I can't stand doing it. I'd much prefer coming over to the human side on the Alliance.
I forgot all about the Goblin starting zone. That is a lot of fun. But like I said, I like to start it too, but I wouldn't stay there. I don't stay with the goblins.
I have a goblin. He's called Mr. Pink. Don't ask. And I got him through the starting area, and he's still there to that day. Just got onto the shores by Ogamar, and that's as far as he's gone.
I enjoyed the Goblin starting zone as well, and I had been thinking about that, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at about the same time, that's when Pandaria came out, and I really enjoyed the Pandarian starting zone. It felt like Blizzard really figured out how to start sort of a tight questing zone. You could move fairly quickly. It had some sort of logical flow to it. It wasn't kind of all scattered as some other zones felt. So I also found the idea of being on a giant turtle to be a fun storyline and a feeling like this is your home, but you have to move on. Just enjoyable. They really hooked me with that storyline.
Well, and it's unique though because you don't have to pick your Alliance or Horde side until you hit level 10.
Yeah, that was strange too. Not bad strange, but unusual.
Yeah, well, it saved them from making 2 starting locations for the pandas. They only have one. That's it.
I never thought of that as sort of laziness on Blizzard's part, but you're probably right.
I'll tell you, when the first time I did a panda, when it first came out, and to find out that we were on a giant turtle, I was like, "Wow, this is really cool!" Because I didn't know that, when I had started, and when you got to actually go out and talk to them and stuff, that was like the coolest thing.
You know
Yeah.
what I wanted was after we did that zone, you got to fly in a balloon, which we've never flown in before. And I still want that balloon as a
Yeah,
mount. I still want it.
Wouldn't that be a cool mount?
That would be awesome.
most
I mean,
definitely.
you can carry a balloon as a pet.
Right.
Yeah, why not
You
fly
give us a little
one?
cheesy one, with the little balloons tied to a basket, and we
Yeah,
could
or a
use
lawn
that.
chair or something.
Oh yeah.
All right. So one other question from the fan is it's mainly about add-ons, what you recommend for the average player just starting off in the ever-changing World of Warcraft. Um, but some add-ons, and you don't have to go into explanation on what they do, just the names of them, what you think the average player should have for starting add-ons to level to get to 110, not necessarily for rating. So, Jobui, what would you recommend?
Well, I would say number one would be a bag add-on of your choice. There are a number of them out there. Some of them are really good. Some are a little bit more complicated than others. Bagnon's an excellent one. Arc Inventory is excellent, and I know there's a few others as well. So I think a bag add-on is pretty essential. Uh, TomTom is a great one for a new player starting out. It gives you a little arrow, lets you know which way to go. That's great. Um, I'd say DBM, just because if you're gonna get into any dungeons, that can help out with that, or even beginning LFR rating or what have you. Um, Maybe something like recount or details to keep track of your DPS, just so you can have an idea of how well you're doing in that department as you're leveling up. Not that it's terribly important at that point, but it just kind of helps you see your own progress as you go. And I think, another one that might be really good for new players would be Spell Flash. Would be another great one. Other than that, I'm not really sure about for new players. I think that would be pretty much it for the essentials.
Okay, Lorelai, you got to add?
Sure. For me, when you're just starting out and you're trying to figure out where to go, WoW Pro leveling guides are fantastic because they work with TomTom and they will start you at a cut. You get a little box on your screen and it will tell you where to go, who to talk to, where to go next. It'll have a little arrow pointing, and then when you open your map, you can see where that area is. Because a lot of times you've got quests that are going everywhere and you just run out of quests after a while, but you know that there's still more you have to do. So I can't start a character without that. I also like ACUS recipe list, which works with all of your professions and it will tell you what you can make. It now does an unlearned tab where you can see what you don't have. And it also lets you know where you can get it. If it's a drop or you can learn it from a trainer, or if it's just something you need to go buy from somebody, from a vendor. And my last would be Gatherer. And that helps with your gathering professions. It sets up nodes so that when you, like mine, ore, it will let you know where that ore was so that you can, when you come back, it'll have a little circle. And if it's there, the circle will fill in with a yellow dot.
Nice. Epistle.
I think a helpful one to add will also be something like pawn, because it allows you to figure out, is that piece of gear better or not? Because when you're first starting out, you don't know which major or minor stats are good for you. I remember being a mage and getting something with agility on it and wore it because I thought it'd be better for me. Whereas intellect's what you really need. So before you figured all that stuff out, it's great to have an add-on that just tells you, yeah, that piece of gear is way better than that piece of gear. It's like a friend over your shoulder letting you know what you need to know.
Absolutely. Cappuccino.
I would probably just say maybe Max Cam, where you'll be able to see more of what's going on with it. You'll be able to get your camera to go out further so you can kind of get a better idea of, what's going on around you. And the other one would be Foglight, because it will help to, you can toggle it so you can see some of the uncovered world, so it's kind of fun to be able to check out where roads are and things like that if you're having trouble, finding a way to go. But all the rest are really good, and I think I have all of them except the one you mentioned, Lorelei, with the quest helper there. What was that one called?
WoW Pro leveling guide.
Ah, I'm gonna have to keep that one in mind.
Yeah, and the only other one I would even add to that list, because that's a fantastic list, is GTFO. GTFO,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's a must-have. Because especially for a new player, GTFO will just scream at you with bells and whistles if you're doing something wrong, like standing in something you shouldn't be. Because not every, when you're a new player, you don't always know that that's a bad thing or something's underneath me because you're so zoned in on trying to kill the boss and do your max DPS that it throws a dot underneath you and you're standing in it going bird, 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 bird.
GTFO,
So
get the heck off.
yeah, that's it.
Kind of what it stands for. Use your imagination.
Get the flock out of there.
Yeah, there you go.
Be a bird. All right. He's got several more questions, but we're not going to hit those. We'll save a few of them for another podcast. But I do want to do a little segment. It goes along with our noob stories, and I'm kind of hitting you guys blind on this, but reminiscing of an old area, and I want to talk about Stranglethorn Vale. I know everybody, I'm sure, has been to STV. You've got to have gone down to Booty Bay and fought the pirates and
Yep.
the alligators all over the place. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a noob story, but just reminisce about a story that you had in STV, and then we'll try to hit a different area each week. So, Joe Bowie, what's your STV story?
Well, I think it was basically the thing I remember most about that zone. Which I mean, yeah, there's the pirates, there's all that stuff, but playing as a hunter when I went there, it was the first time that it felt like it was an authentic hunter-based zone because so many of those quests were like, hey, go out and hunt this type of cat, the tigers and the panthers, and then go hunt these crocodiles or crocolisks, I guess, and the raptors and all that sort of stuff. So I would say that it was just like it really had a sense of, oh, my hunter is being a hunter, and I think that was the first time in WoW that I really felt like my hunter was actually a hunter.
And the first time you meet Helmet Nessingwary.
Yeah, Hemet, good old Hemet. You know, yeah. It's funny how far that character has gone. you know.
Yeah, right?
Oh my god, I know.
Lorelei, STV.
Oh, mine is not so much a noob story about me, has something happening to me, but uh, I had a memory of being out there questing one day, and I saw in trade chat said, the gnome race was getting ready to start, and I was like, what the heck is a gnome race? And so it said, well, people are starting up at the rebel camp, and they're going to run to Booty Bay, and you can't help them, you can't kill anything, and I'm like, what is going on? And so if I was out questing with a friend, and they said, oh my God, you've got to come see this. So I went off the side of the road, and here were about 10 level 1 gnomes, as naked with little first level gear as they could be, running down the road. And about when they got just past where Nessingway's camp is, every cat, every gorilla, every anything that was out there kept coming off and just killing them dead. It was the funniest thing. And I followed them all the way down until actually somebody won. But it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And our guild started doing those. So every once in a while, we'll make little level 1 somethings and we'll go out. One time we tried to do Hogger out there near Westfall, and we got creamed. He just wiped us all out. But we did stop at the inn, and we had to run upstairs and jump on the beds. So gnome race gnome races are hilarious.
Oh my God, I could just see you going after Hogger. 200 little gnomes.
Yeah, we had about 15, 20 of us, and by the time you run from the gnome starting area, you're about level 2 or 3. Um, but we thought we'd get him, but he just killed every single one of us, and it wasn't pretty either.
That's cool. Pistol, how about you? STV.
Not nearly as much fun as that, but I remember being a mage, being incredibly squishy, and trying to do the quests around Nessingwary's expedition. Loved it, really enjoyed it, but I think it was Curzon's compound just to the east. I remember dying and running back so many times. I don't know whether I hadn't figured out how to use my shield or my gear was terrible, but it was like just this death zone. I may as well have been a level 1 gnome because I did not survive very long. It was hard learning, tough lessons.
Yeah, mages were really not good back in those days.
Squishy, squishy, squishy.
So, how about Tappuccino? You got an STV story?
I guess the thing with STV is like Joe Bowie with his hunting, being a leather worker and skinning your brains out. I mean, it was like no matter where you went, there was something that you could skin, and just going through there and killing things and skinning, killing things and skinning. I think it was a frustrating zone though, as far as questing goes, because there would be like, a lot of people and few items or things to kill. Like now you can share in loot and stuff that you find, and not so much back in those days. So I didn't stay around there very long. As soon as I could, I got out of there. But it's a fun zone. It's kind of cool. Booty Bay is quite unique. I couldn't wait to fly. When I could fly, it was much easier to get around Booty Bay, finding the flight path and all that. But very interesting zone, that's for sure. Lots of things to kill and skin.
Well, I remember two real interesting stories that I had. One was, this is the first area, and that's why I picked STV. It's the first area that had a horde camp. That was it was a horde base. They had their own little fort there, and I was running along the beach and I was killing alligators and that kind of stuff. And I saw this there, and I was like, "What is that?" And that was
Oh,
my first encounter with an NPC horde that had PvP above his head, and I had no clue what it was. I tried to get into that compound like 5 or 6 different times, and they
Yeah.
just kicked my butt. And then then my buddy gets on and he's like, "Oh yeah, you don't want to go there. That's where the horde are playing." So, and the other one was just I was what are you about level 10 or 12, and you're going from Westfall into the area next to it, that's just above STV. I decided one day I was going to swim down that river when you cross the bridge, and that river takes you right into STV. For those of you who have
Ouch.
never swam it before, I did. Because I'm like one of those, running around going, "Hey, what happens if you go this direction?" Instead of following what everybody else is doing, I got to figure out a different way of going. See if I can get up that mountain jumping. Yeah, and I wandered right down into STV, and boy, you don't want to be down there being about level 12.
You got your feelings hurt, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, because you come in just, would it be just west of Nessingwary is where it comes in, and they got the little violent fish in the water and the alligators and
Yep.
all that trying to kick your butt. Yeah,
And there's
not a
that
fun
one
time.
panther that sits right off the side of the road when you leave the rebel camp. And
Oh,
he would
always.
kill you every single time you had to leave the rebel camp.
I would love to see the stats on that NPC. We have all these stats on our characters that says we've killed so many of these creatures and so many of that. I'm sure he's got one, killed this many noobs.
Yeah, because the roads weren't safe when you got around Darkshire and STV. Then it was just all bets were off. You just had to hope you could run faster, and you never could.
Yeah.
and you're thinking, geez, I thought the roads were supposed to be safe.
They're
No,
supposed to be.
no, they're supposed to be safer.
All right, on to WFN News. Dan, 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 dan. All right. So, our entire staff last Tuesday secretly was interviewed by the Realm Maintenance Podcast
Yay!
Woohoo!
Yay.
That was fun.
by
That was
Definitely.
scary.
by podcaster Rowe. His interview of us will be released on Tuesday, February 14th. It's listed through realmmaintenance.com. He's got his own website. He also does iTunes, Google Play, all that. He's a proud member of the Frozen Fox Media Network. Guys, what did you think of being, and he stated it, we were his first podcasters to be interviewed by Realm Maintenance of this year, 2017. Joe Bowie, tell me what you thought.
I thought it was pretty awesome. I mean, it lets me know that people are listening and that we've apparently been found interesting enough to be invited on the show, and it was a lot of fun. I liked getting on there and hearing like a different format and getting to answer some questions on there, and I thought it was really really cool.
Lorelai?
I was really impressed that you knew that he had been listening to us because he asked each of us questions that were unique to our characters. And that made me really feel good that, hey, here's somebody who's actually listening to us that we can talk to, and we're getting their opinions. And we're actually, as he said, one of the only podcasts where we have more than two people talking, or one or two people talking to each other.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. When he texted me and asked me, he said, "Would you like to be interviewed, on my podcast?" And I was like, "Sure. Let me find out if the others want to." And I got back to him and I said, "Yep, all five of us are good to go." And he went, "Five of you?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he was prepared for that. But I think we did very, very well. So, Epistle, what was your impression?
Well, that's kind of the fun of it, right? We're sort of a match set. We've got to know each other through rating over the years, but also the podcast is just kind of deepen that sense of connection and understanding each other and how each other thinks, and knowing that each of us brings something different to the table. So it was fun to be at a different table.
Yeah, definitely. Tappuccino.
Oh my gosh, that was just so exciting. Like you guys said, to have somebody that, is interested enough in listening to us and that they'd want to interview us was pretty freaking cool. And, him knowing, us and what our characters are like, and to be able to ask us pertinent questions, like Lorelai said, was pretty fantastic. And I was pretty nervous. I think I'm nervous even talking about it. But I was nervous, but it was just a lot of fun. He made us feel good. He sounded so professional. I mean, not that we don't, but it was really a lot of fun. I'm still kind of like flabbergasted that he wanted to interview us, and I liked the comment he made about, oh, listen to you guys. It's like, you sound like you're sitting in a tavern around a fireplace, having a beer. Not that I want to give anything away, but that was pretty neat. I was
Yeah,
impressed.
yeah, no spoilers, no spoilers. So I have to admit, and I will do this on the air, I have to admit that I think in our podcast, I have the easiest job because I ask you guys the questions and you guys get to answer them. All I got to do is come up with the questions. And I even get you guys to help me with those questions. This was the
Sure.
first time I had been interviewed, and I was just like, oh God, what's he going to ask me? Am I going to be prepared? Am I sound like an idiot? And no, it was a lot of fun. I get it with you guys now. You know why you guys come here every Sunday and sit with me around the table with your frosty mug of ale and talk about all things Azeroth. We've got a great team. We really do. And everybody, please, if you're listening to us, next Tuesday, go to Realm Maintenance and listen to that podcast um, because it was very, very exciting for us. And I agree with you, Tappuccino. I started sweating a little bit again just as we were talking about this. All right. So last Tuesday, Blizz announced that you can now use your WoW tokens on all of BattleNet on something called BattleNet Balance. And I was like, I got this Twitter text, whatever you want to call it, as I walked in the door to home, and I was like, what is BattleNet Balance? I don't know what that is. And oh my gosh. So what you can do now when you get your token, if you buy a token, you can use it not necessarily just to buy WoW game time. You can turn around and use it at the Blizzard store. You can pay for your Diablo account. Anything Blizzard related, you can use it on BattleNet now. Unfortunately, what happened was on the announcement, within 48 hours or 24 hours, something like that, it hit a high. Each token was 115,000 plus gold
That's
just to buy one
crazy.
token. Now it's slightly calmed down now. We're back down in the 79K range, so we're getting down closer, but boy, I remember the last token I think I bought was like 60,000 or 62,000, something like that. So it's still a little high, but it's coming down. So, it's just like, hearing from any other big person of power when they say something, everything spikes and then it starts calming down. So, but leading into that, with making gold this week, making gold from love. No, not that way. I'm talking about the world event going on right now. Love is in the air. And if you're looking to make gold, especially with the rising WoW token prices, there are 3 items that you can get that will earn you some gold. First is the Mount Swift Lovebird, and then there's the pet, the Lovebird hatchling, and the True Shafted Arrow. Now, you don't necessarily want to try, if you get these during this time, you don't want to sell them now because prices will be down because everybody's getting them. You want to hold off, till a couple 3 months down the road, and then throw them on the auction house and watch how much you can get for them. Because nobody can get them until another whole year till Love is in the Air again. So, and I've got a special news co-anchor tonight, Joe Bowie. He's got some news for us. Joe Bowie?
So Blizzard has a crossover event that is starting up on the 14th of February at 10 a.m. Pacific time with Heroes of the Storm. And you can get a mount in World of Warcraft, and I think you also get another item that I believe you can use in Heroes of the Storm in there. But what you have to do is you get Heroes of the Storm, which is free, by the way, and you play with a friend for 15 matches as any of the characters from Azeroth. So any of the World of Warcraft characters in Heroes of the Storm. And you don't have to win matches, you just have to play matches, 15 of them with a friend, and you will be granted it's a flaming saber mount. I forget the exact name of it. It looks a lot like the Demon Hunter default mount that the Demon Hunters get, but it's all fiery, kind of like a core hound. Very cool mount. And that lasts, you just have to have those 15 matches completed by March 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So you have a month to complete the task. But they have to be played with a friend as a character from Azeroth for 15 matches in order to get credit.
Now, you said you don't have to win them, though. You just had to do 15 matches.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to win the matches. They're not expecting us all to become pros at that. They just are trying to get some more folks over there. It's kind of like the crossover that they had with Hearthstone a while back to get the Hearthsteed.
Yeah, because I have to admit, the only reason, and I know I'm going to get flack for this from our followers, the only reason I played Hearthstone was to get the mount. As soon as I got it, I was done.
Did the same thing, actually. I wanted the mount, and although the Hearthstone was surprisingly fun, I didn't really stick around to play it more. It's not exactly my thing, but yeah. So I mean, a simple way to get a very exclusive mount, because if it's anything like the Hearthsteed, there has never been another way to get that mount. So for that 1 month, that mount will be available for anybody who's into collecting those kinds of things.
Awesome. Just once again, Joe Bowie, what were the dates on that?
It is February 14th at 10 Pacific a.m. until March 14th at 10 Pacific a.m.
There you go, guys. You heard it, hopefully for the first time, on Lion's Pride Tavern. So, cue the music. It's Lorelei's Pet Battle Minute.
All right, pet battling. Let's see what we're having. We got something new coming out, and that's going to be the Pet Dungeon. And that will be taking place in Dalaran when you first begin. You've got to have at least one level 25 pet, and you're going to need a whole lot more. But you go to Dalaran and talk to Sarah inside the Pet Emporium, and you'll get a quest, and you'll be able to teleport there to Orgrimmar and go to Crossroads. Now, I'm wondering if Alliance is going to be able to do that, because I guess it might be somewhere outside. But our first dungeon is going to be in Wailing Caverns, and you'll be able to take your pets in, and it will just work like a regular dungeon. What I'm seeing from the PTR is that you'll go through different bosses in different places in the caverns. And after the first one, you won't be able to heal up your pets, so you've got to find pets that can attacks that have self-heals in them. You won't be able to use your bandages or your once a day healing. So and there's going to be new pets for those that like pets, and it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like I might even. Nah.
Yeah, you know you want to.
I was
I
going to
do
say the same thing.
I do have some level 25 pets because in the last expansion, you could go do that one. You in your garrison, you run and you swim under the water, and you can get that one little token.
Yep.
And I did that with all my tunes. So I think I have 11 level 25 tunes now because it automatically took it from 1 to 25. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll try it once. I know I will. But whether I'd stick with it, I don't know. We'll see. It sounds interesting, though.
Yeah,
Very
it sounds
interesting.
different.
All right, so now on to Joe Bowie's Transmog Minute.
This week, we're going to talk a little bit about weapons. Although we have our artifact weapons, and many of them have very cool skins, and they are very interesting, they all lack one essential quality, which is the ability to apply a weapon enchantment effect to them. So if you're interested in having a weapon enchantment effect, say, like you want the Mark of the Bleeding Hollow, which looks a lot like flames, or you want the ever popular Mongoose enchantment, then you can choose a different weapon to have your artifact weapon transmogged into. Now, there are going to be some weapons out there that won't accept an enchantment. Most of those have some sort of baked-in enchanting effect on them already, and it won't allow you to put an enchantment on those. But all the rest of them, and the weapons don't have to be enchanted. You just can put the appearance of an enchantment on them right through your regular transmog window. It won't allow you to do it until you've transmogged it into that alternative weapon, though. For an example, I like to use Tibu's Flaming Longsword on my Fire Mage, and I like to use the Mark of the Bleeding Hollow as the enchantment on it. So first I have to transmog my Felomorn into the Tibu's Blazing Longsword, and then I can apply the Mark of the Bleeding Hollow enchantment to it. Now the enchantments themselves, you come with all characters have a base level set of enchantments that they can choose from. However, you can get other enchantments from various zones. Usually it's from older content, some of it's from slightly newer content, or even brand new content. But a lot of them, for example, Mongoose comes out of the old Karazhan dungeon, and there are lots and lots of them that are available all over the place. In fact, you can even buy some sets that enchanters can make off the auction house. So if you're looking to change up your style a little bit, maybe consider changing your artifact weapon and adding a cool enchantment to it.
Awesome. So for the last 2 weeks that we've been running Lorelai's Pet Battle Minute and Joe Bowie's Transmog Minute, last week we started FTN News. This week we've come up with something for Epistle to say. So this is Epistle's Come At Me, a tanking minute.
Welcome to Come At Me, a minute of tanking basics. When I was thinking about creating a segment, I thought it'd be useful to talk about tanking in a way that everyone in a raid could benefit from understanding the basics of how tanking works. And so today I wanted to focus on the issue of taunting, what it is and how it works. So most of you in a raid will realize that if a boss or ads are interested in you and you've created threat either by healing or by creating damage to them, and that mob comes at you, you could be in a little bit of trouble. And some of you might wonder, if you've been looking for raid, you can hear people talking loudly about it, why isn't the tank getting threat on that particular mob? Well, the basic of tanking is, the basic tool for tanking, for single mobs is something called a taunt. And a taunt, most simply put, is whatever threat has been generated on one specific mob, when a tank hits their taunt key, that mob is then going to direct at the tank. So whatever threat was generated at that point, the tank now has that mob's attention and then can begin sort of from scratch, from beginning, developing a new threat over on top of that mob. Now, most tanks are designed and geared, and the mechanics are such that you hit anything and you start building a threat much more quickly than anyone else damaging. So a very, very powerful high DPS character will have trouble pulling threat from a tank doing some of their basic rotation tools. In the old days, it actually was kind of easy to pull off tanks, and if they weren't really on top of the game, they could lose threat. Now it's fairly simple. But the trick, of course, is you've got to have that taunt, and you've only got a couple of seconds as a tank to build threat on top of it, use your rotation to get ahead of everybody. And a taunt has a cooldown, so if you don't get over, you don't build that threat really quickly, that mob could go charging off onto the raid. So it's all about building a threat, using your basic talents to do that. And you need to know, as a raid member, tanks can't taunt for more than every 5 seconds or so on more than one particular mob. They can do other tricks to create threat, but if something's coming at you, you might want to try to do some sort of threat reduction if you've got it. Otherwise, that mob could come and, I believe the phrase is, eat your face. And that's been Epistle's Tanking Minute.
Yeah, eat your face. I love it. All right, so one last thing before we call it a night. We'll drop off a little early tonight just because we talked so much on Realm Maintenance's podcast that we ran out of things to talk about tonight. So, and we don't want to spoil it because next Tuesday, that's just a few days away. Actually, by the time this comes out, it'll be the next day. It'll be the next day you'll be able to listen to it. We're not going to go into that. So we're going to just do a newbie story from our past. Something that we, found funny, or something that we did that was like, oh, really? That's how you do it? I have not been doing it that way. So Joe Bowie, let's start off with your newbie story.
Well, it's kind of a newbie story, but it's kind of a feeling of reminiscence that I actually recently experienced. Back when I was first playing a mage, way back when, Pyroblast was actually a big rolling ball of fire that slowly traveled over to the target and would hit them. And I remember back then I used to do things like I would I would get far enough away that I would cast my Pyroblast and it would start rolling towards the bad guy, and then I would start prepping up other spells to cast right behind it so that I could kill the bad guy before the bad guy could run up and hit me once and I would fall over dead. And so that was always my goal, was to do as much damage as possible before they could even hit me. And I kind of missed that for a long time, that big fiery ball, until I just not too long ago got the last of the honor talents in Legion for Fire Mage, which is called Greater Pyroblast, which is a big rolling ball of fire that does about 35% damage of the total of the target's health in one hit. It's pretty amazing. And the first time I cast that, it took me all the way back to years and years ago when I was just a newbie mage coming up in the world.
Nice. How about Lorelei? Newbie story?
Yeah, you mentioned last week about Darkshire being a place that you like to hang out in, and we had talked about Stitches coming up and down the road, and it reminded me that one day coming back up from the cemetery that you had to do like 18 times, there was Stitches heading in toward the village, and a bunch of level 20s, because I think we were all about level 20 about that time, decided to attack him, and I just said, oh, well, what the heck, I've already been killed by him once, it doesn't hurt that much. I went in and helped, and we killed him, and I felt such a rush of accomplishment that, oh my God, we killed Stitches, that it just made my whole day, and I fell in love with the game a lot at that point.
Nice. Epistle?
That reminds me, Lorelei, actually, of the time when I went back to Hellfire Peninsula just to take out the Fell Reaver
Yeah.
over and over, and I was hunting him on my mage just to get revenge.
Yeah.
I think everybody's done that.
Yeah, I certainly have.
How about Tappuccino? You got a newbie story?
I do have a newbie story. Back when I first started playing, I my Tappuccino was my first character, and she's gonna be a healer because that's what I wanted to do. So I would quest and do dungeons, and it was really hard. I had a really hard time leveling and stuff. So I got to probably level 40 or 50, and somebody had said to me, you can dual spec. You don't have to level as a healer. And I was like, what's dual spec? And here I am, making it so hard for myself when I could have actually played as a balanced DPS and made it a little bit easier. I forget what level you had to be back then. Was it 40 to dual spec? But
Yeah.
so it
40 or
was,
45.
yeah, something like that. So I must have been like 50 or 60 then at the time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, hit myself on the head. At least I stuck with it though, and I had a lot of fun, and I got pretty good at healing myself mostly. But it was a lot of fun, and yeah, I felt kind of stupid, but yeah, live and learn.
That brings up an interesting question. So when you're leveling, and especially like in Tappuccino's instance, you have, she's a druid. So you have a tank spec, you have a DPS spec, and you have a healing spec. For leveling, guys, what's the hardest spec to level in, do you think? Joe Bowie?
Uh, I don't know necessarily that I can answer that fully because I've never leveled up a healer as a healer. Um, but if I had to pick one that's the hardest to level up, um, I'm gonna go with Affliction Warlock. Not because it's actually hard, but because it's just hard to keep going. I just found it really dull to just apply dots to things over and over and over again while my Void Walker stood there and fought with them, and I kind of stood on the sidelines and just kept him healthy and kept applying dots to things, and I didn't find it very exciting. So you know, maybe Affliction Warlock for me personally. I know some people love that spec; they think it's great, but I just didn't find it nearly as exciting as some of the other classes that I tried. Uh, Tank, I felt I've done that a couple of times, and I felt that was really easy actually.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, boy, don't play a Restoration Druid because that's all they do is apply dots. And yeah, we'll let Epistle comment on your tanking thing. So we'll go to Lorelei.
I think of all the now I haven't leveled up everything, but of the ones I've leveled up, I think the mage was the hardest, just because in the beginning you got three little spells. You got one frost, one fire, and one arcane back when I was leveling, and you just couldn't run fast enough. You couldn't. As soon as you hit it with one thing, you were dead. So I was very frustrated, and I almost deleted my tune several times. Just once, especially when I got out to Badlands, it got really bad out in Badlands. Um, but I kept on doing it, and she's all right now.
Epistle?
Mage was painful in that you had to die and then respawn and run back to your body, or kill one mob, drink, kill another mob, drink, kill another. Yeah, so I found that tedious. However, it's not that difficult now. Tanking, though, as a tank, if you know how to pull a whole bunch of mobs all at once, it is way more efficient because you can kill 10 or 15 mobs. And while it's slow, you're doing gradual AoE damage, and it's fun. Plus, the great thing about tanking is, oh look, there's an elite. I'll go hit it, and then of course somebody's going to come along and help you because it's in their best interest to join you. So I didn't find that tough. Restoration Druid, though, it's a little like tanking, except that not only are you trying to hit other things with your spells, you're also having to cast spells on yourself to keep yourself alive. I find trying to level as a Resto Druid, that's the most painful.
Okay. Tappuccino?
Back in the day, being a Resto Druid was kind of painful to level as a healer. I think it's a lot easier now because we do have some DPS spells, and they've made it easier to level as a healer, so you don't have to keep switching back and forth with your specs. And having leather, I think, helps out too, as far as a little bit of protection. I leveled a priest, a shadow priest, and I thought she's a pain. The spells are kind of slow to cast. She wears cloth. She doesn't really have a good ability to kind of, they have fade, but fade doesn't really work. It doesn't seem to be working. So I'd say my shadow priest is really hard to level, more so than my resto druid was or is. I have to say with the druid, you have prowl, and that has saved my butt quite a few times.
See, and with me, I guess I had it kind of easy because my first tune was my mage, but I ran with a warrior, and I just waited till he had all the aggro and made sure that all the bosses, all the mobs were focused on him, and then I just AOE him down and pick him off, and so I didn't have too bad a time. When I went out on myself, I agree with Epistle. When I went out on myself, it was attack a mob, sit down and eat. Attack a mob, sit down and eat. Oh my God, I got 2 mobs. Run away, run away.
Yeah, I
But
could say that.
yeah. So, but I'm not going to say the mage was the hardest, because in my experience, I have a priest, and there is 2 DPS specs, but I couldn't stand shadow. I never liked it. My wife is a shadow priest, and she loved it. Um, so I found the priest was the hardest of all of my tunes to actually level. Uh, and I think it was more of the fact that I just didn't have enough love of the character. I like being to stand off and shoot, so I like the mage, I like the hunter. I never liked the hunter to begin with because I thought it was cheesy sending your pets up there to do all the work, and you just sit back and shoot them. But I watched this one hunter that I was in a raid group with, and he was just having a blast, bouncing all over the place, just shooting every once in a while, and his pets are off there doing their thing, and he was always in the top DPS. I was like, how the hell can you do that? I have to concentrate as a mage. So, yeah. Well, thanks guys for coming. We actually got our time in tonight, so that's awesome. So thanks all for coming. Don't forget, realmmaintenance.com. Do a search for Realm Maintenance Podcast. That's the one we're on. Ro actually does a couple of podcasts. He does Realm Maintenance and another one called Rolling Restarts. Yeah. So now we're not on Rolling Restarts. We're actually on the Realm Maintenance. So listen to that one. It comes out on Tuesday, February 14th. Our podcast, this one will be out the day before. So we're not going to talk about it. Next week we will talk about it though. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. We'll see what it does to our stats anyway. So thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Pleasure as always.
And keep a listening. If you like this podcast, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. And please, leave comments or questions below. Maybe we'll answer them on the air next podcast. We are hosted on Podomatic.com. Our website is lionspridetavern.podomatic.com. Our podcast also airs on iTunes for Apple users, Google Play for Androids, and YouTube. Just search World of Warcraft Lions Pride Tavern Podcast. See you next week, and thanks for listening.